Hello, my name is Knut and I want to introduce you the CamViewPack. It is a script bundle to speed up your workflow, containing the 5 main scripts: CamViewSets, Switch CamView, Hide from Cam, Ortho Toggle and Camera Icon. Sometimes it may be desirable to have different view settings for different cameras. This is a very simple example. So if you have another camera angle and you want to have a pure look at your character without the lines in the background, you can use the filter and get rid of the grid, get rid of the camera, get rid of the light, maybe also get rid of the horizon line. And now you have the pure look at your character. You can change the display to quick shading and enable hyperlapse. So fine, but if you switch back to the perspective view, you might want to have your camera and your light back, or even the grid, to make your settings there. But again, if you go back, you have the lines again. What you can do is to open a new view panel. In this case, you have the opportunity to choose the head camera and to change the way he's displayed. But as soon as you choose one of the filters, it will affect the perspective view as well. Another way would be the use of layers. If you select the light and the cameras, create a new layer for it. This one, and you go back from the editor view. You have everything turned on, and if you switch to the head, you can switch lights and cameras off. But the disadvantage is it works only with objects, and you can't get rid of the grid by this way. But if you have a look at the complete view settings, there's so much more, and you can't find a solution that works with layers for all these settings. So this is the reason why I wrote the little script CamViewSets. First, you have to be sure that you're in the active window. You can see this at this little white line around the viewport. Select the cameras and run the script. The script will create a new null object for the editor view settings and a Python tag for every view or camera, so that you can go to the user data and deactivate, for example, again, camera and light. And now, if you switch back to the editor view, you have still cameras and lights on. If you want to make some changes here, so let's reactivate the grid and the vert axis and the horizon line. It's all there to work in the editor view. And if you activate your head camera, you have the pure look again. You can do this with every camera. So here, same thing, camera, light off. And as you can see, these are the groups which correspond to the ordinary tabs. It's display, filter, view, back, and so on. So you have a lot of options. Here you can see all the groups opened to set your cameras and your view settings for each camera individually. To get a visual feedback whether the CamViewPack mode is on and off, you can see here in the left upper corner of the viewport an indication whether it's on or off. All you have to be sure is that projection is activated in the HUD options. If you use Alt or Option together with the script button, you can see now the CamViewPack mode is off, and you can toggle it on again. If you have set your settings and you have created a new camera, you can, of course, like always, hold down Control and copy it to the other camera. This makes sense from one object to another. But if you have a lot of cameras, you can select these cameras and the tag and run the script together with the Shift key. Now all the settings are copied to the new Python tags, and you don't have to do all these settings manually for each camera. As you can see, when you go back to Filter, it's every time you choose one of these cameras, and if you go back to the editor view, it's here again. And if you want to get rid of all the CamView sets, you can press the script button again and holding Control key, and you see your scene is now as it was before. The next script is called Switch CamView. You can find it here. First, you select your cameras and run the script. Now you have a new null object called Switch CamView, and in its user data you will find the cameras you have selected before. If you run the script again, it will switch from one slot to the next, and if there's one slot empty, it doesn't matter, the script just skips the empty slots. If you want, you can add your editor camera too. And now if you toggle again, you will see the editor camera is also inside this list. The included CVV palette contains two of Cinema 4D's own commands that complement well with the Switch CamView object. The first one is this here, the command use camera, default camera. It switches not only directly to the editor camera, but it offers also a visual feedback by highlighting this icon of the palette if the editor camera is active. So if you switch through the list and you want to go to your editor camera without using the order of the list, you can use this Cinema 4D command. The other command is set active object as camera, and if you want to jump directly to the selected camera, you can use this button. Of course, you could do this as well by using the camera dots, but if you assign a shortcut to the Switch CamView script, you can cycle through your cameras without digging in your Objects Manager's hierarchy, and it will be much faster. Another advantage of using the Switch CamView script is using it during the process of lighting. This is a simple example for lighting with Switch CamView. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3 lights, and they are all together in the Switch CamView list. And as you can see, they can be located anywhere in the hierarchy. This is the active window. Please remember that you always have a look at this white line around the viewport. And now I run the command, and it will switch from one light to the other. At the bottom of the user data you will find this option, disable render mode for inactive objects. And if you enable these options, as you can see on the left side, you can see the light influence only of the active light in the switch CamView viewport. So if I now run the script and toggle between the lights, I can see on the left side the influence of the light and adjust it in the other window by changing the rotation and position of the active light. So if I switch again, I have the influence of this light, and you can see the result on the other side. As soon as I disable the option again, you will see the combined lighting of all three lights together. Please remember, when using more than one viewport, the other script of CamView settings is disabled automatically to avoid conflicts between the viewports. The best way to go back to a workflow together with CamView sets, I've included this button. If you choose this to toggle the active view, it will automatically reactivate or enable the CamView sets. You can do it with this little icon or just using the middle mouse button, but there's one disadvantage. As you can see, CVP tells you it's still on. This is because Cinema 4D does not refresh when changing viewports. I think this is due to performance reasons. And so it doesn't recalculate the expressions, and you have to tick one time on any object, and as you can see now, it's disabled. And if you switch back this way, and I'm not using this button, it's still disabled, so you have to enable it again by using Alt, Option and the CamView Sets button. So it's easier and you're always safe if you're using the toggle on-off active view button from the CamViewPack. Another feature is the link to camera option. If you create a new camera, let's call it my EDI or something like this, and give it a view set, and let me again disable camera, light, grid. Then I drag it into the switch CamView list, add the editor camera, and now I enable the option link to editor camera. As you can see, we are in the editor mode, and now if I change the angle and use the switch script, I have exactly the same position, but without the things I don't want to see. If I go back, it's on again and always takes the position and rotation of the editor camera in account. The next script is hide from camera. Basically it's the same as if you would use layers to hide specific objects, but again this is camera specific. Say you have some helper objects or joints or nulls, you can disable them using layers, but if you have a specific way to organize your layer stack, it might be a little bit too tedious to do this all the time if you change a camera. Instead of this, you can choose the objects, or to make it more easier, a null object, which is a group of all these objects. You select it, run the script, and you get this Python tag. Again, you have slots for the aimed cameras. So I pick this camera, drag it into this slot, and as you can see, the objects I don't want to see in this current viewport are gone. If you switch the camera, you have it again. Additionally, there's this option only visible to editor camera. So if you're lazy like me and you have a lot of cameras and you want to have the helper objects only visible to the editor camera, you just enable this option, and now you can see them in editor view, and as soon as you switch to another camera, the objects are invisible. The next option is for the editor camera, and I just realized that this is still in German, so I have to fix this for the final release. With this radio buttons, you can define whether the helper object shall be visible for the editor camera, invisible, or if you need this for your object manager's hierarchy, undefined. If you want to have your settings also while rendering, you have the same slots for the cameras for a render mode as you have done it in the editor mode. The hide from cam script has also got some modifier keys. So if you run the script for one object and you put the camera into the slot, activate the camera, this object is gone. If you want to copy this settings to other objects, you select the objects, the Python tag, and you run the script holding down the Shift key. Now you have the same settings for all three objects. If you want to disable the hide from cam Python text temporarily, you press the Alt key and run the script. Now they are still visible even if you choose this specified camera. And at least same thing, if you want to delete all the Python tags from hide from camera, you run the script together with the control key. And of course this has an undo if you do it by accident. This is an example for the ortho toggle script. If you have a non-symmetrical part of your mesh and you want to have a look at it and compare it from both orthographical views, and you choose front and toggle to back, it's all gone. In contrast, if you use the ortho toggle script, you can have a look at this yellow cross in the middle, run the script, and it stays in place. If you want to have it even a bit more precise or oriented to a special object, you can choose it, select it as the active object, and now you press the button together with Alt Option, and as you can see, the toggle stays exactly where the axis of the active object is. Okay, camera icon. Let's make a cube, a camera. Okay. If you have to scale your project, This can be necessary, for example, when using the subsurface scattering shader to reduce render times or any other reasons. You know that the representation of the camera doesn't scale and it's getting quite small. If you turn off the cone, you're totally lost. But what you can do, if you use the camera icon script, it will, you select the camera, run the script, and you will get a slider in the attribute manager, and then you can set the desired size of your camera as visual representation. This works the same with several cameras, and there are some modifiers with the camera icon script. If you press Alt or Option and run the script, you can disable and enable the camera icons. If you want to change the size of the cameras, you run the script together with the Shift key, and you get them selected all together, and you have or you can change the size for all of them at once. And finally, if you use the script together with Control, you just delete all the camera icons. All commands have an undo. A manual containing the installation and documentation of all scripts is included in the CamViewPack.